So Barack Hussein Obama, the ex-president, gave his speech at Jesse Jackson's funeral. And all I can say is, Barack Obama, sit your ass down.
Obama spoke at Jesse Jackson's funeral today, spewing the same I was taught, I was indoctrinated with as a child.
We are living in a time when it can be hard to hope. Each day we wake up to some new assault, another setback, an offense to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others, and that some don't even count at all. Everywhere we see greed and bigotry being celebrated, and bullying and mockery masquerading as strength, denigrated ignorance and dishonesty and cruelty and corruption, and it's hard to hope.
This speech was so negative. Literally, black people have to be dragged through the mud and brought back up. You know, they have to feel inspired and worthy of good. I'm so sick of this damn messaging. It's old, it's whack, it's played out. Literally, these people are casting spells and have damaged the black community. They have set the black community back.
Yesterday, I listened for several hours of 3 United States presidents who do not know Jesse Jackson. He maintained a tense relationship with the political order, not because the presidents were white or black, but the demands of our message, the demands of speaking for the least of these, those who were disinherited, the damned, the dispossessed, the disrespected, demanded not Democratic or Republican solutions, but demanded a consistent, prophetic voice that at no point in time ever sold us out as a people. And it speaks volumes about who the Reverend Jesse Jackson was.
So we got to talk about this because a lot of people are looking at what happened and saying, hold on, something ain't right here. You had Democrats like Barack Hussein Obama, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, and others showing up to Jesse Jackson's funeral. And now there's backlash coming from black Americans who are straight up pissed off about how it went down. Why? Because Jesse Jackson's own son made it crystal clear before the funeral even happened. He said, listen, this is not a political event. Don't come here and turn this into politics. This is about paying respect to my father. This is about family, legacy, and honoring someone's life. That's it. Simple. Think about it like this. If someone in your family passes away and your family says, hey, today is about remembering them. No drama, no arguments, no agendas. Everybody understands the assignment. You come, you pay your respects, you hug the family, you share stories, and you keep it moving. You don't grab the microphone and start campaigning or talking about your political enemies. That's basic respect. But what people are saying happen here is the exact opposite, because Democrats showed up and instead of just honoring Jesse Jackson, they started bringing up Donald Trump, bringing up politics, bringing up the election, and basically turning the moment into a political message. And that's where the frustration is coming from. People are saying, hold up. This was supposed to be a funeral, not a campaign rally. This wasn't supposed to be about Republicans versus Democrats. This was supposed to be about remembering a man's life. And when you start bringing campaign style talking points into a funeral after the family specifically asks you not to, people feel like you ignored the family's wishes and used the moment for political points. And that's the issue people are arguing about right now. It's not complicated. The complaint is simple. The family asked for a non-political funeral, and critics say the politicians who showed up turned it political anyway. And now a lot of people, especially in the black community, are calling that out and asking why a moment that was supposed to be about respect ended up sounding like a political event instead. I want you guys to check this out now.
Do not bring your politics out of respect to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the life that he lived, to these homegoing services. Come respectful and come to say thank you. But these homegoing services are welcome to all, Democrat, Republican, liberal, and conservative, right wing, left wing, because his life is broad enough to cover the full spectrum of what it means to be an American. We only ask people to come and be respectful in the context of the extraordinary life that he lived.
Each day we wake up to some new assault on our democratic institutions. Another setback to the idea of the rule of law. An offense to common decency. Every day you wake up to things you just didn't think were possible. Each day we're told by those in high office to fear each other and to turn on each other, and that some Americans count more than others.
I don't care what they do in Washington. I care what we do in the community. We beat people bigger than Trump. We fought people harder than them if we stand up and be what we're supposed to be.
This is bad times like now. We're in a tough spot, folks. We got an administration that doesn't share any of the values that we have. And I don't think I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Let me just say, I predicted a lot about what's happening right now. I'm not into saying I told you so, but we did see it coming.
Do not bring your politics.
And there you have it, family. Wow. This is a damn shame, bro. A real damn shame. Seriously. Because let's be clear about what happened here. Reverend Jesse Jackson's own son came out ahead of time and said something very simple. Something anybody with basic respect should understand. He said, do not bring politics to this funeral. That's it. Plain and simple. This is not a rally. This is not a campaign stop. This is not a debate stage. This is a funeral. We're here to honor my father, remember his life, show love to the family, and keep it moving. Anybody with common sense knows what that means. It means you show up, you pay respects, you say something about the man's life, his work, his legacy, the people he helped, the community he served. You don't turn around and start talking about elections, parties, or your political enemies. That's basic human decency. But what do these Democrats do? They show up anyway and start making it about politics. They start bringing up Trump. They start turning the moment into a political message. And now people are looking at this like, hold on. You are specifically told not to do that. The family literally asked you not to do that. And you did it anyway. And that's why people are angry, because this isn't complicated. Imagine somebody in your family passes away, and before the funeral, the family says, please, today is not about drama or agendas. Today is about honoring this person. And then somebody grabs the microphone and starts pushing their own message, turning the whole thing into something else. Anybody will look at that and say, yo, what are you doing? That's disrespectful. That's not the time or the place. And that's why folks are saying this is disgusting, because anybody wise enough know there's a time and place for everything. But because when you ignore a family's wishes at a funeral, just so you can squeeze in political talking points, that tells people everything they need to know. And it makes it look like you couldn't even put politics aside for one moment to respect a man's life. And that's why people are saying these folks have no shame. None whatsoever, these Democrats, because the request was simple. Don't make it political. And yet somehow they still turned it into politics anyway. And people are looking at that like, wow, seriously, at a funeral? That's where we are now? That's the problem people are reacting to right now. And honestly, a lot of folks are shaking their heads because something like this should have been the easiest thing in the world. Show up, show respect, honor the man, and leave the politics at the door. But apparently that was too much to ask for these Democrats. Simple as that, right? These people, right? They do shameful stuff, these Democrats. And it tells you how how unempathetic, or I should say, insensitive these Democrats are. They don't care about anything but power. And I always say it, they care about party over people. These people couldn't help themselves. That's the crazy part is they couldn't help themselves. They literally cannot help themselves with that basic request. And they still did the exact opposite, right? And when you look at this, because they couldn't keep the politics at home, which was the assignment, and you see how disrespectful they are at the funeral, right? You couldn't put aside politics for one day, one moment at the funeral of a civil rights leader. And then you have Kamala Harris getting up there saying stuff like, I predicted everything that's happening right now. Who says that? Seriously, who says that at a funeral? Think about that. Imagine being at someone's funeral and instead of talking about the person who passed, somebody grabs the mic and starts talking about how they were right about politics. People would look around the room like, what are you doing right now? That's not the time. That's not the place. But this is exactly why so many people are frustrated, because a lot of folks feel like Democrats treat black communities like a political prop, like something they can pull out whenever they need votes, whenever they need a stage, whenever they need a moment to promote themselves, instead of respecting what the family asked for, instead of focusing on unity, on Jesse Jackson's legacy, on the civil rights work he did. They turned the moment into politics anyway. And people are noticing that. A lot of black Americans saw that and felt disrespected. And that's why you're seeing people take to the internet, speaking out, expressing outrage, calling this whole thing for what they see as a political stunt. Because again, the request was simple: leave politics out of it. Just honor the man's life. But instead, critics say Democrats use the moment as a platform for their own politics. And that's why so many people right now are calling this whole situation shameful. Absolutely shameful. But don't take my word for it. I want you guys to check out what this guy had to say.
Jesse Jackson's son specifically asked everybody that attended the funeral to not bring politics to this celebration of life for him. What did Barack Obama, Kamala Harris, and everybody else who got up there, what did they do? They made it political. They started talking about the left and the right, and Al Sharpton talking about we can defeat Trump. We've been doing this for... Did you not hear what the son of Reverend Jesse Jackson said? He said, leave that stuff at home. And the first thing you guys did, you see, this is the thing. You guys are so desperate, right? You don't have your own campaigns. None of you guys have anything going on. So you use every opportunity that cameras are going to be there to spew out your hate for fucking Trump, all right? Instead of doing the groundwork and getting back in office, getting back in position to take over, you guys disrespect Jesse Jackson when his son specifically said, please leave politics at home today. This is the celebration of life. But it goes to show you how disrespectful these people are, because they don't give a fuck about nothing other than defeating Trump. That's Trump derangement syndrome at its finest.
So, because when someone tells you something that's simple and you ignore it anyway, it shows you made a choice. You chose to do what you wanted to do. And that's why people are saying this whole thing shows a bigger problem with Democrats right now. Let's keep it real. A lot of folks feel like the only thing holding the party together right now is Trump. That's it. Trump derangement syndrome, meaning they all talk about Trump nonstop. Everything comes back to Trump. Every speech, every talking point, every message somehow circles right back to Trump. And people are saying if Trump wasn't even in the picture, Democrats would be in a really bad place politically, because they don't seem to have anything else to rally around. No clear identity, no clear message, just constant opposition to Trump. And that's why the situation at the funeral stood out to so many people, because if you can't even go to a funeral of a civil rights leader and just give a respectful eulogy about the man's life, you can't give a respectful eulogy without bringing Trump into it. And that tells people something. It makes it look like politics is the only thing on their mind. Like you can't turn it off even for a moment. And that's why critics are saying this shows how empty the party feels right now without Trump as the center of the conversation. Everything keeps going back to him, even in places where it clearly shouldn't. And that's why people are shaking their heads and saying this whole situation is sad, because a funeral should be the one place where politics gets put on pause. And it should be about remembering someone's life, their work, the people they help. But instead, people are saying the moment got pulled right back into the same political fight again. And that's exactly why so many folks online are calling this out and saying Democrats just couldn't help themselves. And with that said, you have another guy speaking on it. So let's listen to see what he had to say.
I ain't gonna lie, bro. Jesse Jackson's funeral is that this whole idea about leftist Gen Z or whatever the case, motherfuckers being performative, is simply just projection. This man's son told you, do not bring your politics to this motherfucker. And you brought your politics. This idea that you couldn't have spoke at his funeral without adding your politics is fucking insane. The idea that if you don't want to vote for someone who just disrespected a civil rights activist's funeral and his family's wishes, if you don't want to vote for that person, you're not pro-black. That's fucking crazy. The idea that in 2024 we told folks, well, you might as well put the AIPAC shit to the side. You might as well put the Israel shit to the side. You might as well put the genocide to the side, because neither one of them are going to stop supporting Israel and stop fucking with Israel. So you might as well just do harm reduction. And now you're making an argument that for some fucking reason they would have just stopped supporting Israel and that we would not be at war for Israel. Even though we funded the genocide, but war is where we're going to draw the fucking line. Y'all need to wake the fuck up and truly take some responsibility for yourself. Democrats are not going to save you. They're not, bro. And then it's the fact that Bill Clinton was there. The same Bill Clinton that was sitting there smiling, reminiscing about his time at Epstein Island. These are the people that you expect to save you from the niggas that was at the island with them? Come on. I ain't gonna lie.
All right, we're going to move right along to the last video, family. Let's check out what she had to say.
So the late Reverend Jesse Jackson's funeral was held on yesterday, and despite his son reportedly asking that it not be political, the former Vice President Kamala Harris, former Presidents Biden and Obama couldn't help themselves. They had to express their TDS. So you have Kamala getting up there. And let me just say this, President Trump reportedly was invited to attend the funeral but did not attend. You have Kamala that gets up there, pretty much first words come out of her mouth. A lot of the stuff that's going on, I predicted. And I hate to be the one to tell you, I told you so. Well, you told us so, and we told you no. Then she goes on talking about how when she was a child, she was taught that whenever a door is closed, that you're to knock on the door. But when she became an adult, she learned that sometimes when the door is closed and you keep knocking on it, if it does not open, that you should just bust through the door. So practically what I got from that is that when she became an adult, she learned how to break and enter, practically how to become corrupt. Then you have Joe Biden. I'm surprised they even let him out the house. You know, they rarely allowed him to talk during his residency, but they allowed him to talk, and he went on and mumbled and bumbled and made some memes like he always does. Started off talking about how we're in a tough spot, and then was practically saying how, you know, that this administration, Trump's administration, does not share the same values as they do. What values would that be, Joe, while you're standing in the church? Okay, Trump, to my knowledge, has acknowledged God, has acknowledged prayer, has acknowledged faith. Okay, it's pro-life, it's pro-free speech, it's pro-Second Amendment. So what are you talking about? Because during your administration, it was a lot of corruption going on. The borders was left wide open. Y'all ran that abortion thing. That's pretty much what y'all ran on. And saying all this in church, and then had the nerve to turn around and quote a scripture talking about those that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Well, we know who you've been waiting up on, and it ain't the Lord. Then you got Obama that gets up there talking about how sometimes it's hard to hope. We're living in times where it's hard to hope. Now, that was during your presidency, sir, 2008 through 2016. Those were some tough times with the housing crisis, all those bombs being dropped over there in the Middle East. You had kids being put in cages, deporting more people than Trump has even deported.
I'm gonna stop her right there, right? Because this woman bringing up the whole deportation argument. I want to correct it. This is one of the biggest misconceptions, right? About people saying Obama was somehow a better deporter than Trump. No, that's not true. That's not how that worked. What Obama did, and a lot of people don't realize this, is he had large numbers of people show up at the border. And when they got stopped at the border and sent right back, the administration counted that as a deportation. But think about that in simple terms. If somebody walks up to the door of your house and you tell them, nope, you can't come in, and they turn around and leave, did you really kick them out your house? No, they never actually got inside. That's basically what was happening in a lot of those cases. People will reach the border, get turned around, and the government will still count it as a deportation in the statistics. But what Trump had to deal with was different. Trump had to do the hard work of interior deportations. That means people who are already inside the country, they're already here in America, already living somewhere, already settled in, and then immigration authorities had to go find them, process them, and send them back. That's a much harder process. That's real deportation work. And another big difference between people point out is that under Trump, fewer people were even showing up at the border in the first place because the policies were stricter. So you can't run up those easy numbers when fewer people are coming to the door to begin with. And that's why critics say comparing those numbers without explaining the difference is misleading. And a lot of that ties back into what people are saying about this whole situation at Jesse Jackson's funeral. Because again, we're talking about a civil rights icon, a reverend, a man of faith, somebody who spent decades in public life fighting for causes he believed in. A moment like that that should have been about honoring his life, talking about the work he did, the legacy he leaves behind, the people he inspired. That's what a funeral is supposed to be about. But instead, critics say Democrats turned the moment into a political stage, and they did. They made it about themselves, about Trump, and the same political fight they talk about every day.
You had you trying to change God's laws by allowing men to marry men. Okay, made it a law, hijacking God's rainbow. And then you stand up in church and say that, talking about how now evil and corruption and greed and are reaping the rewards of wealth. That pretty much describes all three of y'all. All three of y'all. Ugh, the hypocrisy, you guys, off the charts. At any rate, rest in peace to the late Reverend Jesse Jackson, who was a civil rights activist. He also ran for political office, presidential office, in 84 and 88. He did not achieve that, but he did run. He had a few quotes that I like, but one of the main ones that I like was never look down upon a person unless you are helping them up. So rest in peace, Reverend Jesse Jackson.
I love that quote. But like I said, when you look at this whole thing, a lot of people watching, that says everything they need to know about where the party is right now when it comes to the Democrats. Because when you can't even step into a funeral and leave the politics at the door for one moment, people start asking questions about priorities. They start asking whether the focus is really on honoring someone's life or just finding another platform to push political talking points. And that's why you're seeing the backlash online. A lot of people feel like the line was crossed, that the moment was supposed to be about Jesse Jackson and his legacy, not about campaign messaging. To them, it looks desperate, like a party so focused on a political fight that they'll use any stage available, even a funeral, to keep that message going. And that's why so many people are saying the criticism is deserved. A lot of folks think the whole thing was out of line, but that's where the debate is right now. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you think they crossed the line, turning that moment political, or do you think it was fair game? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you haven't already, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.